Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation on root causes and rapid results. Today, I'm here with Dr. Ameet, who is my esteemed colleague who's quite the expert in a range of underlying root causes for the chronic conditions plaguing us today. And welcome, Dr. Ameet.
Thank you, Sinclair. I'm really excited to help people unentangle family trauma, and ancestral trauma using family constellation therapy. We'll dive into a bit about homeopathy and how that can heal the root cause of trauma and energetic imbalances. And then hopefully we'll get a chance to also look at my favorite remedies for liver detox, because liver is really the root organ for a lot of chronic diseases as well. And you have a masterclass on that as well, which will be exciting to listen to. So I'm excited really to tie in emotional healing as well as detoxification and physical healing, because the mind and body work together. So let's look into that.
I'm so excited that you said that, because you know that we're very much aligned in this, that our approach is to consider that, the body is storing experiences, and often they get stored against environmental toxins. And when you have a disruption to the state of flow, you get more and more stagnation, and you get this lovely snowball effect. But that doesn't mean that that's a life sentence, does it?
Absolutely not. No, there's solutions for emotional healing from psychotherapy, homeopathy, tapping, EMDR, somatic release, which we'll go into. I practice family constellation therapy, which really heals the root cause of emotional imbalances for many cases. That includes healing ancestral trauma. So what happens is we kind of borrow or take on the traumas of our ancestors. So if our grandfather, grandparents have been in the war, for example, or there's been a murder in the family, a miscarriage, an abortion, and let's say you are the second child or third child after miscarriage and abortion, and you feel that you're the first child because the previous children have not been acknowledged properly, you will live with a lot of stress and burden on your shoulders because you're assuming the first child position in the family, which is really detrimental to your mental well-being and physical well-being. And I'll share some healing sentences we can do around that. But that's just one example of an imbalance in the system that we can heal with family constellation therapy, that psychotherapy and often homeopathy, and of course supplements, does not address fully, because it's coming from a systemic influence, a family imbalance influence, rather than an overt trauma, which is easy to heal with normal psychotherapy.
I think this is so important for us to unpack today, because we're having an ever more sophisticated discussion about mental health, and yet it's very myopic, and it almost enables us to continue carrying our trauma instead of actually to understand it and to release it, right? And so I would love for you to speak to how family constellations can restore that rightful place for everyone in the family. And I think my favorite line that helps describe family constellations is, restoring the flow of love.
Beautiful.
Can you speak to that and help people get oriented who might be new to family constellations?
Right. Okay. So the flow of love is a very important statement, because love gets stuck when we have certain shoulds, beliefs, or we take on responsibilities that are not ours. I'm going to describe each one in detail. First, let's see, first of all, how stress affects the body and creates chronic disease, and then how then family trauma contributes to that stress, and then what we can do to heal the family trauma. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Very, very quickly. When a person is stressed, they go into a fight or flight response, right? And your adrenal glands make adrenaline. And if the trauma is unhealed or the imbalance in the family is unhealed, your adrenal glands and your nervous system stays in a fight or flight state and continuously produces cortisol and adrenaline, which then basically affects other hormones in your body. You go into a cortisol imbalance. When you go into a cortisol imbalance, then you go into weight gain. Your thyroid hormones get suppressed, so you go into clinical hypothyroidism. Serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, and GABA, all your neurotransmitters start dropping, right? And so you go into more anxiety, depression, and insomnia. So you can see how adrenal imbalance and adrenal fatigue from chronic stress and unhealed trauma, create both mental symptoms and physical disease. And then when you have chronic inflammation as well, either from a leaky gut syndrome, which I talk about in my course, or from liver toxicity, then the inflammation also drives chronic disease, one. Number two, it also throws off cortisol imbalances, your cortisol levels. And as you've seen, cortisol imbalance then creates a myriad of diseases and hormonal imbalances. Okay, so inflammation, toxicity, as well as emotional stress all affect your physiology. All right.
What a
Now,
wonderful summary. Thank you. Yes.
pleasure. So, liver detox remedies we'll talk about at the end. But let's go back into family constellations. So, Bert Hellinger, a genius, and he was a Jesuit priest who also did a lot of work in South Africa, combined psychotherapy with his learnings or teachings of the Zulu people, where they respected what we call orders of love. What does orders of love mean? Orders of love, first of all, when they're disrespected, will create mental health symptoms as well as physical health symptoms. So the orders of love are genuinely these things. In a system, we need to include everyone. Often in many family systems, people are excluded, whether it's the heroin addict, the black sheep of the family, a murder victim, or somebody who was a perpetrator, or somebody who was just disregarded from the family. They're not talked about. These are family secrets. So automatically there's an exclusion of a person. When the exclusion happens, that soul, that entity, that energy of that person still exists in the family system. And that energy shows up in the living people, the children, the descendants in the family, right? And it shows up as either OCD, suicidal thoughts. Typically, the symptoms are of what happened to that excluded member. This sounds woo-woo, but it's the most exploding therapy out there in the world right now, because it's really it's seeing that we are connected, to our ancestral trauma and what happens to our family members. Okay, and I'll teach you healing sentences about this. One healing sentence could be, dear, let's say a grandfather was murdered in the war and he was either forgotten about, or sometimes he was murdered, let's say, by a murderer, and that murderer is not talked about. So we can say, dear grandfather, we include you now in our hearts. Your history, your fate was very difficult, for many of us, but we give you a place in the system, and those who take your life, we recognize them, we give them a place in history, in life. So you're less in avoiding, you're not avoiding these people, because you don't know it, but it's a very subtle, unconscious avoidance. And that unconscious avoidance creates stress or strain in your mind, in the subtle parts of your mind and your nervous system. And that leads into anxieties and thyroid issues and just neurosis in your mind. Okay. That's one, including. So everyone has to be included. That's one order of love. And when you, listener who's listening, give yourself the right place in your system, you will feel a huge sense of relief come over your body. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so now we're also separating what belongs to parents and what belongs to you. That's the second order of love, the order of balance. So often as children, we take on the burdens of our parents out of guilt, out of rescuing. So if mom and dad were grieving the lost child, we will kind of take their fate on, take the burden on. I will share this with you, mom and dad. But then the whole family becomes dysfunctional and you end up with depression that doesn't belong to you. And you stifle your life, your ability to live life fully, because you're carrying or you're looking backwards at your parents rather than forward into life. You're carrying the burden and the grief. Another way we carry the burden of our parents, let's say mom was abused by dad. So we feel guilty about the abuse. So we rescue mom and we take her side and we carry her fate and her burden. So we don't live life fully because we're kind of responsible, or we feel responsible, to share the burden with her and take her side. So two things happen. One is, of course, we suffocate ourselves, and we blind ourselves to our own fate because we're busy rescuing mom. The other thing is we reject the father, the other person who gave us life. So we have a loyalty. Yeah, we have a loyalty against dad and towards mom. And that creates a split within our own soul, within our own personality. Yeah, so we don't feel good enough inside because we are denying the father in us. Yeah, and we're over loyal to mom. So we kind of feel incapable of standing on our own 2 feet. And we go into codependent relationships sometimes. Or we go into relationships where somebody really depends on us, so we feel fulfilled. Okay. So you can see how a family trauma and the loyalties we create within the family system create mental health symptoms, dysfunctionalities. And these dysfunctionalities also lead to physical diseases. Okay. Example is I had somebody with a stomach ulcer. Yeah. And we tried homeopathy. Homeopathy gave a lot of relief for a while, but it kept on coming back. We did supplements, we changed the diet, etc. And then until we could get him to express, so his entanglement, we call in family constellations, we call them entanglements with family members. His entanglement with his father. He had loyalty to his father's ways. His father had a certain way of living life. Yeah. And this man didn't feel free to let go of that way of life and live his own life. Yeah. Because he grew up in the system, and all of us are guilty of this.
Absolutely.
And so this patient, this man had, a conflict with his wife. And because of loyalty to his father, he couldn't aggress or address the conflict in a healthy way. So he suppressed his emotions, yeah, out of guilt and respect to the system. And when I got him to speak from a place of truth, dear dad, this is your culture, and I respect it, and I want to belong to the family. Forgive me or look at me with love and blessings if I reduce the burden of this culture and talk to my wife in a different way, in a healthier way. Boom. Yeah, that belief, that whole delusion of needing to protect or carry the culture dissolve. We could feel it. And suddenly you got this clarity of, gosh, my wife is a partner. I can speak to her in a healthier way. Yeah, and get my needs met as well. Yeah. And without just excluding her fully. Then he suddenly got this feeling of connection with the father as well as other people, including his wife, and felt more empowered to speak the truth. Yeah. And as we got him to aggress in a healthy way and still get his needs met and respect his wife at the same time, he felt more seen, more included, and the tension in his body disappeared and the ulcers went away. The nervous system relaxed. Okay. And of course, the adrenal system relaxed. So that is the order of balance. Then there's the
recap then. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, to recap, the orders of love that we've covered so far are.
Go ahead. Yeah. Including everyone, missing people, murderers, victims of murder, perpetrators, miscarriages, abortions, etc. Then there's the balance of giving and taking. Yeah. So in a relationship, if somebody gives too much, you will actually, although it seems good, but if you receive too much and the person cannot receive, you will actually, there's a subtle part of you that will feel overwhelmed by the giving and the receiving. Yeah. And often we see that there'll be a betrayal in the relationship. You might go and look elsewhere, or you might sabotage the relationship because it's like it was too much and you need to end the relationship. It sounds woo-woo, but it happens so often.
I see it happen a lot. Yeah, when there's an imbalance of giving and receiving, usually the person who is over receiving will find a way to exit.
Yeah. And then there's maintaining order. The order of parents come first. Yeah. And there's a hierarchy. So maintaining the hierarchy. Yeah. And then the children come second, and you got to respect the ones who come before you. And also the order of, let's say your father had a previous marriage. Yeah. That woman needs to be included, and she came first. So when your mom enters or basically marries your father, mom has to look at the father and say, you came with a previous wife and maybe children before I came into your life. That needs to be respected, so I can feel I can include all of you fully and be your partner fully. Okay. Then there's harmony between the parents. And the children will sense that harmony and they will feel less burdened.
I think this is so important because, especially in the U.S., we have these illusions of individuality. That I am my own person. I make my own destiny. It's me, myself, and I. And we're just now starting to grapple with, oh, that's right. We've lost our communities, and we are still connected to our family units, and we desperately need to be acknowledging this web of connectivity and reciprocity if we are to be all of ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. And epigenetics shows that we do carry ancestral trauma. We can see from the scientifically, epigenetics has shown that children who have ancestors who went through World War II, World War One, the Holocaust, or even 9/11, yeah, those children are more prone to anxiety, depression, OCD, etc. Yeah,
Mm.
because trauma is passed down through genetics, and family constellation has certain healing sentences that can release the energetic imprints of those traumas so the children and yourselves feel healthier.
So I'd love to unpack that a little more because I think that's the hardest thing for Americans specifically to integrate and open to, because we don't want to be the recipients of previous generations trauma, and we would love to move on, and again, that
Mhm.
cult of individuality. But I think that on the other side of acknowledging that we are not only our ancestors' greatest dreams, but we are also carrying the imprint of their experiences. It doesn't
Yes,
have to be a trauma carried forward. Once you acknowledge it, you can actually restore a state of harmony
yes,
surprisingly quickly through family constellations. Can you
yes.
unpack that a bit more?
Well, we carry these out of loyalty and out of love, right? We feel need to share, and this is it's a natural phenomena that happens in human beings, maybe even in animals.
Mm.
Okay, and so this pull towards the grief, the loss, everything in the system is like we share the burden. We do that in order to be included in the system. So whatever happens to our ancestors is a system, and there's a draw to belong to this experience. Yeah. And in order to belong to this experience, okay, I will also imbibe this. I will also swallow these traumas and this grief and depression so that I can feel connected and remain connected to you as you carry this grief. That's our intention, always to go back to belonging. And then we kind of disconnect from our own life path.
Mm.
And then we go into more depression. We lose our grounding. You might get, feet issues, weak hips, exact. And or if there's conflict between our parents, you might take one side versus the other. That can go into scoliosis, for example. I've seen aggression and denial of the father, issues with the father, going to liver issues. I'm going to cover some homeopathic remedies for my course for liver, and why the liver is so important. But we see that this emotional things we do unconsciously, yeah, from the experiences of our ancestors and our parents and our siblings, yeah, does translate into physiological changes as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I specialize in, of course, mental health, anxiety, depression, but as a naturopath, of course, I'm always treating physical diseases. And rather than only using homeopathy and herbs and supplements, I'm finding that these physical diseases also have a root cause often in family entanglements. And when you heal those, then you need less supplements and medications over time. Yeah.
I think this is a really beautiful way to lead into the next section for us, which is if we have carried the trauma of our ancestors forward, and you can see that in our epigenetics, and if we have had a long-term stress response to trying to maintain a whole for the system, and out of love taking on these burdens for most often our parents or sometimes our siblings or an earlier family member, um, where do we go from here?
Okay.
How can we support the body as well as exploring with family constellation specifically
Yeah.
how we can return to our own state of flow? And I'll ask you to answer this with a couple of things in mind. We have people who are brand new to their health journey experience listening, and we also
Mhm.
have people who I lovingly call our summit junkies, who are
Okay.
just as knowledgeable as their practitioners about their bodies. And they're looking for that just one nugget to help inspire them to take the next step forward.
Okay, if this gets confusing, I have some free videos on my website. Please,
Right.
this will explain liver, gut, family trauma, emotional trauma. But what I want to say is, because I specialize in homeopathy, the first thing is after you've done constellation work and you've done the healing sentences, which you can do, it's important also to look at homeopathic remedies,
Mhm.
because homeopathic remedies can go in and heal trauma as well as emotional imbalances, energetic imbalances. Okay. So because homeopathy is energetic in nature and it captures all your symptoms, yeah, in homeopathy, we look at, if you're depressed, do you have suicidal thoughts, or are you more withdrawn, or are you more aggressive? So your unique symptoms help me point to a better remedy for you. Okay. And then based on that uniqueness, the homeopathic because I choose the remedy based on your unique symptoms, then the remedy acts much deeper and more completely for your whole picture. So instead of multiple sessions of therapy, the homeopathy just takes you much further quicker.
Mhm.
Okay. So combine homeopathy with psychotherapy is very important. One. And then psychotherapy, use techniques such as EMDR, Gestalt, somatic experiencing, things that really include your body and the somatic release, yeah, of trauma that's stored in your nervous system and your body cells. Yeah. If you go into analytical psychology or psychotherapy, you don't get that much of a satisfying deeper release.
Right.
And so
Insight therapy is no comparison to the actual somatic release in our experience.
yes. And so your nervous system will be stuck in fight or flight, even though you're intellectualizing a relief, yeah, and you understand the situation. Yes, it might calm your nervous system a bit, but there's no full release. You're compensating all the time. And that will exhaust your adrenal glands, right? And when your adrenal glands go into exhaustion, of course, you get the thyroid issues, the anxiety, depression, weight gain, water retention, and chronic diseases, or lowered immunity.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're new to health, of course, I work on fixing the 5 pillars of health. So one is the emotional trauma we've talked about, then the family entanglements, then the gut, liver, and adrenals. Okay. We've talked about releasing stress to give your adrenal glands a break. And then there's remedies to heal your gut, because the gut is the core of inflammation for many people. So using probiotics, vitamin D, amino acids, which I cover in the course as well, are super important. And of course, avoiding inflammatory foods. Those are typically gluten and dairy. Yeah. So now we're talking about the physical body, because you want a summary for everyone. Yeah. As you heal the gut, it's super important to heal the liver, because the liver is the most ignored organ. Yeah. And liver detox is probably the foundation of most healing that I do. Yeah. We use herbs and supplements like milk thistle, dandelion. Yeah. Inositol choline is excellent for thinning the bile, for example. Okay. And then in the online course, I cover homeopathic remedies specific for liver detox.
Mm.
For example, Nux vomica is great if you have constipation and your poop is like little sheep pellets. Now, why is constipation connected to the liver? Because constipation is often due to a lack of bile flow, not a laxative deficiency, which most people think. Yeah, people are taking laxatives rather than healing their liver. But once you get the bile flowing, your poop will flow much better, right? And so it's super important to heal the liver for that. Lycopodium is excellent for gas and bloating. Yeah. For PMS symptoms, a lot of people, women with PMS symptoms, are taking the birth control pill or painkillers, etc. But PMS, I often find, is due to liver stagnation combined with inflammation and a progesterone deficiency.
Completely agree.
And the liver is the master organ which controls hormones, not only the ovaries or the testes. Right. So when you heal the liver, your progesterone estrogen balances will correct a bit better. Okay. And that goes into now adrenal support, sometimes hormonal imbalances in a lot of chronic diseases like low immunity and fatigue are because of your exhausted adrenal glands from unresolved stress, which we've talked about, as well as from chronic inflammation. So after healing the gut and detoxifying the liver to reduce the toxic burden on the whole body and inflammation, and you release stress and trauma, then you can go in and build your adrenal glands, nourish the adrenal glands. And I also cover that in the course, where we use adrenal supplements like ashwagandha, rhodiola to rebuild your system. And of course, other herbs and supplements. The B vitamins are great as adrenal support, and so is vitamin C in some cases. Okay, so to summarize for people, healing the body and mind together is super important. Yeah, so we start by healing trauma, childhood trauma, which we call adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, as well as family ancestral trauma using family constellation therapy. And the trauma is healed with psychotherapy as well as homeopathy. So that's removing the energetic imprints that are stressing the body and the nervous system and the mind. And then you go in there and clean up the body. Yeah, heal the gut, remove the inflammatory foods, and detoxify the liver. So everything's nice and clean and resilient. And then if you're super exhausted and depleted, then we rebuild you up with the adrenal nourishing herbs and a good diet. So you can see the importance of, releasing the emotional burden, cleaning up the body, and then rebuilding in a healthy way.
I completely agree. You're totally speaking my love language right now. How important the liver is, how important it is to understand that we have these layers of consciousness that need to be tended to, the emotional, the mental, the physical, and the bioelectrical, our wonderful nervous system really connect everything.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your insights today. Do you want to leave the audience with any last nuggets? We'll also let them know how to reach you.
Yeah. So healing the liver with only herbs and supplements is effective in some cases, but we need to include drainage. Yeah. So I include homeopathic remedies in all my treatment protocols to make sure that we're really healing the cells at a very deep cellular level. Okay. Because sometimes herbs and supplements don't get to that energetic release level of the cell. So really look at using homeopathic remedies in your healing protocols as well to get a deeper healing. And emotionally, of course, be patient with yourself, right? We often criticize ourselves based on psychology, modern psychology and social media and the media. Oh, I have a neurosis, or I'm not good enough, or I need to work on my this habit or that habit. There's a lot of shoulds that we create that also stifle our sense of self-love and freedom. So put the brakes on that. Start with self-patience, self-love, etc. Calm down and then say, okay, what do I desire? How do I desire to feel rather than what is wrong with me? Because if you work on what's wrong with you, you'll always be in a battle with parts of your character or parts of your traits and patterns. If you say, what do I desire to heal? I desire to feel more calm. I desire to feel more secure, loving, connected with people. Then the right tools will come your way. Otherwise, you'll be on an endless hamster wheel trying to fix yourself with the same mind that's broken.
I could not agree more. I think it's so important for us to remember that as we delve into, especially the adverse childhood events, the family trauma, it's important to remember that if the body is bringing it to your awareness, that means it can get released and resolved. So I find that people who, listen to experts nonstop, hi guys, we love having you here. And the way that our colleagues often speak about it, Dr. Ameet, is actually anchors the trauma. And so people end up carrying it around with them in an even more entrenched way, or they'll speak about their potentially temporary neuroses and compensating behaviors with like this strange ownership, my anxiety this, my anxiety that. And actually, these are very natural responses, right, that we can move through and we can always restore a state of flow. So if it's coming into your awareness, there's no need to actually be scared of it because it means that the body's ready to work on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look at it with curiosity rather than fault finding. Curiosity is a form of self-love, which is one drop of healing. Yeah. The first drop of self-healing.
You are quite a poet. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I think there's so many insights here and you're very inspiring. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I'd love to point people to drameet.com, drameet.com. There's a free ebook and video course on healing the gut, the liver, emotional stress, and your vulnerability. And there's a talk on family constellations there as well. And then there's a full online course as well that goes into my exact protocols, including all the homeopathic remedies for anxiety, depression, and trauma, and liver detox, of course. So thank you.